Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Color Me Back. Welcome back to Color Me Happy. My name is Brandy Hofer. Just sitting in the studio today, editing like 10 podcasts. I'm so excited. It's really growing. You can check it out on our website and apply to be a part of it. We love meeting new people and hearing everyone's story. It's so exciting. We even have a new sponsor, which is cool. Red Bicycle Communications is an all-female communications company, business in our community, and they're so awesome. And I'm really excited. They are featuring our final question, which is a day in the life, and I ask all our listeners, to describe their perfect day, and I love hearing everyone's answers because surprisingly they're all very similar, which is really interesting. I think I forgot to ask Tasha in this one, but I think I did in all the rest upcoming episodes. You can expect an episode randomly because I'm juggling Parenthood, 3 boys, but more consistently at about every 2 weeks. I'm really jazzed about that. Getting the pod and life together. No, I'm not actually. Getting the pod together. Life still. Oh my gosh. Teddy broke a piggy. I was getting Gus ready for school and Teddy broke a piggy bank, and he's been super into potty training himself. He just turned 2. He isn't potty trained. He's not ready. But he takes off his diaper and likes to be naked, and then he announces when he has to pee, and sometimes goes on the toilet. But anyway, he broke a piggy bank and then urinated all over the money, and that was just one of the things he did while I was getting his brothers ready for school. So many. Yeah, great. What am I doing here? I am introducing Tasha Hilderman. She is amazing. Someone I greatly admire and look up to. And in this episode, things you didn't know about your neighbor. That's what I want to call it, but really. But she is my neighbor, and she has some really cool accomplishments and a very interesting story. And it's neat because we all live here, and she's a local part business owner, and their business is amazing. They have grown it and like beyond what you expect of a local hardware store, like way beyond. They have like a cafe. It's super trendy. They host conferences. She's gone to, her and her sister have gone, I'm ruining the whole podcast. They went to like the Facebook headquarters, and Tasha gave like a speech. She also is a writer and is being published by Penguin Random House. Am I saying that right? I should know. I know what it is. I just, Anyways, she's, yes, a very accomplished individual. And I won't tell you the whole episode, but I'm very tickled that she was here and so excited for you to hear it because it's so inspiring. And it's just another example of someone believing in themselves and doing the work and paving the way for others to do the same. And I think you'll gain a lot from this episode. So enjoy it, friend.
Just making sure. Okay. Yes, welcome. We have Tasha. She's actually lives pretty close to me, which is great. Happy to call her my kind of neighbor. Mm-hmm. And she also is a local business owner, like part owner of home hardware. So welcome, and busy mom, and a writer as well, correct?
Yes.
I can't wait to chat with you about that because I don't know much about it. So we get to learn all for the first time. It'll be really nice. And of course, I love chatting with fellow creatives. And if they are local, that is even better. So can we start like way, way back for all the local listeners? Because you're not originally from Lloydminster, and your family has kind of a unique story, of moving here and stuff like that. So you moved here, would have been what year? Like
End of 1998.
mm,
So we were in Red Deer and we hadn't sold our house yet. And we lived in the country like almost my whole life. We moved to the country when I was 6.5.
mm,
And so then we would also be moving to the city. And I was out of school. I had graduated in June of 97. And so I was the only one still not in school when we moved. And my parents wanted to get my siblings to Lloyd for when school started in the fall.
mm-hmm.
So, but our house hadn't sold yet. So my mom stayed in Red Deer with our dog and just keeping everything on the acreage kind of going, waiting for the house to sell and do showings and that kind of stuff. And me and my dad and my sister Sarah, and then my brother and sister Lori and David are twins, and they're the youngest. I thought they were in grade 8, but Lori's telling me they're in grade 7. But
It was grade 7. I remember.
It was grade 7.
I was in grade 7 with them.
Oh, well, there you go. Because in my mind, it's always
new
grade
kids. Which, you know what's funny about it? It never occurred to me that they were brother and sister and in the same grade. And no one said, like, they didn't have the same friends groups. So they never were like, we're twins.
Right.
So no one knew. And then years later, I'm like, they're twins. And
Yeah.
obviously, because they're in the same grade and they both came to our school new.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really tough. Like, that's a hard age to move at. And like balancing 2 homes and like a big family.
Yeah. And so when we moved here, we went into we found a rental house. So we were in a rental house that had an unfinished basement. And so Sarah and I were in the basement and just kind of like hung up sheets just in this unfinished basement to like designate where our spaces were. And we didn't have a lot of furniture because they were trying just to sell stuff off so they didn't have to move it. So we had like a strip of outdoor, like the green outdoor carpet downstairs as just like a little semi carpet. And we brought our TV, but we didn't have a TV stand. So the TV was on a wagon. And that was kind of our setup. The kitchen did not have appliances. So we had a mini fridge we brought from Red Deer. Keep in mind, there's 5 of us, and it didn't have a stove. So eventually somebody that was working at Home Hardware found us a stove for $100. So we bought that and we're using that. But otherwise, my mom just sent me like a little electric skillet. And she was like, here's the things you can help your dad make, because your dad won't know what to do, to make supper for everyone. Everyone, welcome to your new city and good luck your first day of school.
Enjoy yourselves. We've set you up with everything. It should go really well.
Yeah.
Oh no. So you kind of like stepped into a role there. Like you had to, take on kind of helping out.
Yeah. And then, so how long did I stay? And then eventually I was like, I had started looking for places to travel because I wanted to travel, but I didn't really know. I'd only ever been at home. I went to the University of Calgary the year before for fine arts, got mono right at the very beginning and had to drop out because my spleen was so swollen I couldn't sit. So then my whole life was this kind of jumble. And then I ended up taking a position as a nanny for a Republican family in Delaware for those 3 months in the fall. So after my mom moved up, I left and went to Delaware for 3 months while they were just over the store. Yeah. So there was a lot of change and a lot of, it's crazy to look back on everything that we were going through at that time.
Yeah. Could you imagine doing that now with your family?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So can you explain, because you have a large family too, right? So you can tell everyone, I don't need to tell your.
Right. So I'm married. My husband, Jeff, grew up in Lloydminster. And then my oldest is Hannah, and she's 13 in grade 8. And then my middle child is Leo, and he is 10. And my youngest is Bailey, and he is 7 and in grade 2.
Mm-hmm. So sweet. Yeah. Our sons are in the same class. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes, they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. It's so hard to keep track. They don't tell you the names. If like you hear, and Bailey will say like what people's names are, or he'll mispronounce them, but we don't get like a class list anymore. Like you don't.
No. It's like, yeah, I have a hard time with names, regardless, but now it's just like I have less of a chance of being
Right.
successful. So, okay, yeah. So could you imagine right now, like, and I have, well, a bit younger kids than you, but like, relocating and one of the parents not coming and one looking after this property and that property. So yeah, I couldn't even fathom. It would be tough on a family and kind of for you at that age where you're trying to be independent but also you want that sense of home and it was gone.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a major, like we weren't business owners before. My dad managed a home hardware in Red Deer for 25 years and was just thinking he wanted to do something else because he kind of done that for that length of time. And home hardware head office, like home hardwares they're just independent stores, but we share a warehouse and we share advertising. So like it's not like a franchise where we're reporting to somebody, but head office had been saying to him, look, have you ever thought about running your own store? Like you've been managing it for this long, there's opportunities in these different places. They mentioned High River, Lloydminster, somewhere in Nova Scotia, I forget where, Salmon Arm, BC. And they kind of looked around and then they decided to do Lloyd because they wanted to stay in Alberta and thought Lloyd was a growing city, kind of like what Red Deer was. So that's how they picked it. But had never been business owners before, aside from just the hobby farms and, selling Shackley and stuff that everybody kind of had a side gig. So that was a major risk. And you've got this family you're going to support, right? And be like, let's go buy this business that comes with a staff of 30, and you're going to walk in and be like, okay, this is how we're going to do things moving forward and here's the changes we're going to make. And some people, we have one employee who's still with us from the very beginning.
Wow.
But we had a lot in the beginning. There was a lot of people that didn't really we didn't have a time clock at the store. They would just write on a scribbler and go for lunch whenever they wanted. So there was a lot of things that we had to institute to kind of get it into being more of a business.
Well-oiled machine.
Yes.
Yeah, organized.
Yeah.
And okay, so someone else had owned it and you guys came in and took it over.
Yeah, I think the store actually opened in 95 and then the store was growing. They want to just kind of like run a hardware store. But Lloydminster was booming and Lloyd was growing and they're like, this wasn't what we signed up for. They ended up moving out to like Vancouver Island. They've got a store out there somewhere. I believe. And so then this store came up they were like the store, we would like someone to continue on running it. Is there anybody that's kind of in home hardware right now that would be interested in it? And that's how just kind of aligned at the right time where my dad was looking to do something new.
And obviously it worked out.
Yes.
But you don't know, it's a risk and you don't know at the time and it's hard. Like nothing that is good or that will be good is ever easy getting there. And not only that, it's still not good all of the time. Like it's not right. There's always difficulties with taking on something of that scale. And I think it kind of they made it so like they stepped out of the box, right? Like it's not your typical, and you guys have a lot of awards and recognition because of that. Skipping ahead a bit. So when did you come into the mix at Home Hardware?
When we first moved here, so I was there a little bit technically we moved here in August 98 and my parents took over ownership January 1st, 99. So that period that I was gone for the 3 months, they were kind of in a flux period, just in the transition. Like it had a manager that was managing it and there was just paperwork and stuff to kind of go through until January. And I came back at Christmas that year and then I started working at the store. And it was just kind of wherever you need to be. Like we didn't have cleaning people. So me and Sarah would go in the morning and mop the floors and dust and clean everything up, then go home and change and then go back to work. And that was challenging too, because you're like the boss's children. And then people would come to us and ask us questions. And I'm like, I'm 19. Like, I don't know. That's
I
not a
just
question.
love the floors. I don't really want to be here.
Right.
It's making
What
me.
is this? I don't know the answer to that question. You've been working here for 4 years. Like, I don't know. So there was a bit of a transition where we started, and then we kind of took on different areas. Like, I started working, Sarah was a cashier. The twins were still too young. Like, they didn't work for a while. I started working kind of in the housewares gourmet area and helping my mom with some of the marketing, like the newspaper advertisements, and then learning payroll and stuff. And eventually I took on all of that stuff from her. Sarah was a cashier and then also went into garden. So that's kind of became her specialty. And then, so I worked January to June, and then I was like, I got to get out of here again. Went to Australia by myself backpacking. And then
Cool.
went over Christmas that year, which was a big deal because I was always afraid to be gone for Christmas. Came back the following year. And then, like, none of us thought that we would stay and work at the store. We were all going to do something else. So I went to university and I studied English, and Sarah went to school and studied marketing and public relations. And then meanwhile, we were always coming back and working on weekends. And if you have a family business, you basically, there's no escaping it. Like, you're talking about it at dinner time. Someone's messaging you late at night. So it's all consuming. So even if we wanted to be away from it, we would have had to like move somewhere far away because
Yeah.
it's just around and it's in you. And you're thinking about it all the time, and you're concerned about it all the time, and you have dreams for it all the time. So we went and did some other things, worked in other places. Like when I was in university, I worked at Chapters, and I had worked at the Keg before. And then when I was backpacking, I worked as a housekeeper. So you gain different types of knowledge with those different types of jobs that you can then bring back.
Yeah.
Psychology in university, which you don't think, you're like, oh, a business owner, but we have 100 employees, and all of their problems are also our problems. You know, if they're having marital trouble, or they're having, fertility issues, or they have depression or anxiety, or they're coming to you with that, and you have to have those skills to be able to manage that as well.
It's a whole thing. And I'm writing a little book too, and I call those stepping stones. So stepping stones to get to everything is leading to you to where you're meant to be.
Right.
And those skill sets that come along with each stepping stone is a part of your life and why you are successful at what you do. So I find it so interesting because I like being from here and going away, which I think is very important. And I'm sure you agree, to just gain your sense of self,
right,
and independence, and to know that you can come back and have that security and that family and stuff like that. But I think you have to leave first to kind of figure out and place value in the fact that you do have those things.
Right.
To know that it is important to you to be close to family, or or to have success in business, and there's a platform there for you to build on. And so I've seen, like, I remember when you guys came, and being at your house a little bit. Like, I just remember your mom and dad coming home with chips, which I thought was cool. Just like, their parents come home with bags of chips, from the store or whatever, right? And I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then seeing that business really thrive, and I feel like it wouldn't have had those extra special elements had you guys not had small kind of dreams and visions collectively along the way, right? Like, some really neat, like, workshops. Or can you just name a few of the really cool, like, this is not what you expect from a home hardware. Like, there is really great nights where you have like speakers, and you have a big market. I talk about it. It's just great. And how those things happened. Like, I wonder how they happened.
The majority of the store, the things that the store does and has, are because we saw a need for it in Lloydminster. Like, obviously being in Lloydminster, we're like 2.5 hours away from either Edmonton or Saskatoon. And people were always, when we first moved here, when we were in Red Deer, we would go to Edmonton because that's where our family was from. But Red Deer had everything else. People didn't go to the city as much as they did here. Like it's a major thing. Everybody talks about going to the city, which they mean Edmonton or Saskatoon. And so when we first got here, like when you go back and remember what Lloydminster was like then, there was no power center, right? The Co-op grocery store was downtown still. Canadian Tire was where Co-op is right now. Like I always try to tell that to people who grew up here so they could be like, oh yeah, like town ended
at the Shell station,
at
right?
the Shell station.
Hardware.
Yeah. And then like we were the very edge of town that was farmland beside us. And then coming into town, it was like there used to be the Roberge cow and you would just turn to get onto College Drive. And that was the
now that like it is, and like McDonald's. And that's what you remember. McDonald's was important.
Yeah, there was one Tim Hortons and there was no drive-through for it, right? Like it was the grocery store, like Sobeys was IGA, and it was where the Brick is, and it closed.
Do you remember that? I don't remember Co-op being Canadian Tire for some reason. I can't visually see it.
I know, and there was I guess the strip mall was like a video store. Jeff and I argue over what the name was.
Well, what is he saying?
I forget what he says, but it's not what he says. Like I said, it was like Video Vision. Or it had video in the name, and there
was a Star Vision by Tags. Sorry, that was not Tags. I don't know. The Mini Mart? Is it called the
Mini Mart, which is now gone, and it's now the dog boutique. But yeah, Star Vision was there, and
then what? Yeah, I kind of remember it.
And it used to have a mailbox in front of it, and my mom would always accidentally put the videotapes in the mailbox instead of in the video slot. So then she'd have to go in like, I dropped that. Like, why do you have that there? It's too confusing. I dropped off the thing in the mailbox. So when we came here, we came from Red Deer, and not ginormously bigger than Lloyd, but still significantly enough bigger.
Much bigger, yeah.
And so we were like, whoa, like IGA closes really early. Like you can't. How do we get groceries? Like we went to the store, it's closed, right? And so we were like, okay, what are people going to the city for? And can we do that here? What are they looking for? Can we bring that here? What's not in town here? And even with Timber, that's how Timber came about, because back then.
So Timber is your cafe for people who aren't local. That used to be very tiny, but now is like a full functioning.
Yes, because it started literally as just like this back room that we put a counter in front of, and we were like, at the time we wanted mochas, which was just like hot chocolate mixed with coffee.
Can we get mochas here?
Yeah. We're like, we want a mocha, and there was no sushi in Lloyd, there was no Starbucks. You had to go to the city for that, right? And we actually like petitioned Starbucks for years, trying to become like the serve Starbucks, like how hotels do that. And so we were like, we're the ones that got them to come here, because we bugged them so many times saying, we need a Starbucks. And then they finally came. But then we wanted a cappuccino, like a real cappuccino. There was a place downtown that you could go. But then we're like, let's just do it here. People are coming to the hardware store now in the same ways they were, in the 1950s, when people would go in and be like, oh, hi, Bill. Oh, hi, Bob. How are you? And they'd just be leaning against shelves and talking.
It is. It's a real sense of community in there. It's very interesting, the dynamic.
And so we were like, they need a place to sit. Exactly. They need a place to sit because they're all just leaning against shelves. Well, let's just put, I think it sat 12 when it used to be called Ginger Snaps, when Ginger Snaps was first open inside. So we had like 12 seats, and now we have 55 inside and 110 outside because more people kept coming. And they would come with Tim Hortons in the beginning, and we're like, well, they're bringing coffee here. Why don't we offer them coffee so they can sit and have, so it all kind of grew from that. And then same with, some of the seminars and the classes that we've had, we were like, when we moved here, we were seeking, how do you meet people? How do you get to know other people in the community when you're not in school anymore, right? Because when you're in high school, you're getting to know people, or if you're sporty, which none of us are, you might be playing sports or meeting people that way. And so we're like, there's lots of people that move to Lloyd that don't know anybody, that come because their spouses work here, and then they're seeking relationships, but how do you find those things? So
Mm.
like, let's offer some of these programs. And so some of them would just be an opportunity for a night out. Like, what could it be about? Well, let's do one about crystals, or let's make bracelets, or we did wine glass painting with Art So Life in town here. Let's do flower arranging with petals and stems. So we offered a bunch of that stuff to not only help people in town get to know each other and have an activity, but also help other businesses
Mm-hmm.
reach out to those people, because it is difficult to be known now. Like, it's back in the day, you placed an ad in the yellow pages and you're like, that's how you let people know you exist. You just pull out the phone book and flip through and you're like, who sells flowers in town? But now it's very challenging to reach people with the way social media works. And, we have a local newspaper that only comes out once a week. Are you catching people? Are people grabbing it? How do you reach these people, and how do you be known? Even yesterday, I took my daughter to Art So Life, and we were at a store, and she's like, oh, what are you doing this afternoon? And I said, well, we're going to Art So Life. And she goes, oh, I've never heard of that. I just moved here. Like, what is it?
Oh my gosh,
right?
yeah.
And so we're like, if we can align ourselves with these other businesses, we've got a larger voice now because we've been around for 20 years. We can help these guys get a voice or get out there. And if we like them, our customers probably like them too. So then we can share these great finds that we've had. So let's have a night market and showcase all these smaller businesses that you might not have heard of, but they're really awesome. So let's bring them here so you guys can all get to know them, because our customers and us probably have the same taste because we're buying all this in the store.
And you know what? We have an insanely talented community.
Yes.
Like, there is a lot of creative talent and culinary talent, and just like really, and not only that, but just like you guys are, and you're kind of leading by example, but when you do collaborate and you do work together, that's just helping everyone. It's a collective, and that over competition. And Jill Kelly just came on from Red Bicycle, and we talked a lot about that. Like, it is, and she really mentioned like females lifting one another up and shifting that dynamic. And I feel very strongly, and I love what you guys are doing with that. And the night market, did you expect it to explode the way it did?
No. And the thing
you
is,
could not. What was it? 4 blocks? I think someone called me. I was super pregnant, and you guys invited me to be a part of it, and I was like, I'm due that day.
Yeah.
So I wanted to so badly, but I'm like, what if I had a baby? Like,
right.
be good. Can't do that. And so I attended, and it was tough to get around because my belly was being bumped.
Right.
But I think it was like 4 city blocks. Someone called me, and they're like, I can't park because it's 4 city blocks are filled with cars. Like, it was insane.
Yeah.
And then the next one was, did you even count that night? Did you guys count?
The first night we didn't. The second night, or like this night market this year, we put a counter on the door, but people were coming in before we reset it. But it was like 3,000 people in that space of time. So it's like 10% of the population of the city.
That's insane.
Yeah. And some of these ideas, and then the thing that we enjoy is, so we're a business, but how do we be more than a hardware store? What else can we represent? What else can we help showcase in our community? What else does being a community member mean? And how do we kind of solidify that and help lift the entire city? Because when we all support each other, that's what makes the city better and grow and attract more creatives and attract more businesses. And then we don't need to go to the city because our city's pretty cool. And then people are coming to us.
Exactly. So, and there's some pretty cool, and I love that people are doing this, and you guys, as such an influential business, have that mindset, because I think it's working. Like, I can't say anything yet, but there are some really big beautification projects on the go. And I think you're right. I get to be a part of them. So I'm
Yeah.
like, so can I shout it to the world yet, or
Right.
what?
Yeah.
So there's some like, and it is a city, so I really am happy that, you know, everyone's voices for that are being
Mhm.
heard, because
Mhm.
we do have an opportunity to have like cute spaces to go, because
Yes.
we need them. Look at how well they are received,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
yeah, I don't want to drive somewhere to
Right.
go out for lunch.
Yeah.
I just
And I
want to
think
go out for lunch and have a good
yes.
time and see people I know. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to treat yourself and do a fancy hotel, but
Yeah.
like with me with kids, like that's,
Yeah.
I can maybe go once a year.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so
And
it's
like everybody likes a trip to the city and everybody goes to the city and that's fine. But
let's
don't
bring
sit
people
here and
here.
like, yeah, don't sit here and like hate on Lloyd and be like, oh, Lloyd's boring. Well, what are you doing to change that? How are you helping?
Let me just say, interrupt you for a second.
Yes.
This is not boring. It is not
No.
boring here.
No.
And so if you're bored, you're just not trying hard enough.
Yeah, exactly. And then even like if you years ago, my cousin lives in Edmonton and she posted a book swap and she was like, it was some book swap and so I was like, that's really awesome. I wish Lloyd had it. And this was on Facebook and Sarah comments, be the change, you host one. And then I had a couple of friends who were like, if you host one, I'll help. So now we have a book swap at the store.
Yeah.
And so that is something that we think about, that if we're like, we want this, okay, can we do it? Sometimes we do that to excess where we're like, we need to stop doing so much. Like we need to
We're
just
tired.
take a breather. Yeah, we're tired. We have to rejuvenate. We're going to get burnt out.
People
But
didn't show up to that one because we just had 11 on the go.
yeah.
No, I hear that. I see a shiny squirrel and I get
Yeah.
excited sometimes too, because
Yeah.
you're like, that would be amazing.
Yes.
Sometimes I've gotten myself in a position right now where I'm like, you should do this and it could be like this. And they're like, great, let's do it. I'm like, okay, that's like the 5th thing this month. Like
Right.
this
Yeah.
week I had somehow raveled myself 2 mural jobs in one weekend, and I'm just raveled. That's not the right word. I wrangled. That's it.
Wrangled, yep.
Wrangled myself to, which is humanly impossible, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Because paint needs drying time, by the way. Oh, I'm tired. I'm a little bit tired today.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was like struggling I was like, oh shit,
Yes.
together.
And that's the hard
Because
part.
I want to reach out and connect too with the community,
Yes.
because I think we're so great and
Yes.
it's exciting. And I don't want to just interview like artists. Like I I have lots of groups from all over the world and I connect with them. But I want to also connect with my community, because
Mhm.
we've got a lot of great stuff happening.
Mhm.
Did you guys go like to some weird, sorry, you could say what you had to say, and then
Yeah,
after,
go ahead.
did
No.
you go to some like Facebook conference one time? Am I remembering?
Yes. So 2019, Facebook had a community summit, and normally it is for people who run like super Facebook groups. So the groups that have like 200,000
Yeah.
people and they all love octopuses or whatever. And they're group admins of that. Facebook realized that these people are doing this for free and they're part of what's making Facebook good instead of bad. So they wanted to recognize it and kind of support these people and hear from them how they can make products that help work better. So even the way a lot of things like Marketplace has been developed, or how the buy and sell pages, now we have the options to put prices and picking all of that stuff, they come from conferences like this, because Facebook kind of made Facebook and they're like, this is how we expect you to use it. And then everybody used it this way. So they're like, we're learning from you. Like, we're watching what you're doing with it and we can develop it to work better. So 2019, they actually allowed businesses to come also. And so we got an invite to go. And so Sarah and I, to Facebook headquarters in Menlo, California. So Sarah and I went for first an interview at Facebook. And the interview, they record you and share it with Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg, and in their meetings being like, here's how the product is being used. Here's someone representing what Facebook means to them. And then I went to the conference, which was 2 days long. And they just had different speakers and different like tips and things that you could do. Got a bunch of Facebook swag. So it was very cool and still very surreal to be like, because Mark Zuckerberg came out and talked to us. And I'm
Cool.
like, I am at Facebook. That is Mark Zuckerberg. How did this
He
happen?
he was my first friend on Facebook.
Yeah.
Back when it started. So weird.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Do you remember his profile picture too? It was just like this average guy in his like dorm room. He's like,
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
friend you. My name's Mark.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. And it seems so weird, but that's pretty cool too. And of course, it's all different now. So since
Yeah.
2019.
Yes, definitely.
Not really though. Like they did really. You're right. They shifted focus to groups.
Yeah. And that's what they're trying to do. So even as a business, and I actually spoke at that. I always forget about that. They had some of us.
Oh my gosh! What?
So I was speaking at Facebook. So that was also very bizarre.
Just
like,
write that on your
brain was
resume, like on the top. I've spoken at
Facebook.
Period. That's all you need to read.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. But yeah, so they have modified it to be more focused on the benefits of being in a group, because groups have really expanded. Like everybody's in I'm in a 50 bazillion different groups for, all kinds of things.
Guess what? This interview is going in our group.
There you go.
Yeah, my group is Color Me Happy. I just started it though because I didn't know if I could take on a community. And then I realized that I love chatting with friends, so it probably is for me. Yeah. But I'm also at the brink of my last son is 2, and we are so done. Right. So, you get those tiny tastes of freedom and connection again. And with that came maybe there are other females out there like me who would love to chat and support one another. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what it's going to be or what it is yet, but I know a few things. And I really want to just support each other. So, and it'll grow into what it can be, I'm sure, one day, just far beyond what you expect. And I'm not going to put any expectations on it because I know that's a waste of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to. So yeah, you're going to be up there as our feature member of the week, and it's so exciting because you're a pretty fierce female in our community, I have to say. What were you going to say before I interrupted you before the Facebook question? Do you remember?
No, who knows?
No, I'm like, I ruined her moment of.
No.
Oh,
it's all good. It's just that's the way everything flows.
Yeah, that's okay. I want to. So, can you tell me a little bit about, because you studied writing? You said
yes.
Yeah.
So I kind of bounced around in terms of what my creative life was like. When I was growing up, when I was really young, I just did writing. I've always been exceptionally shy. I have really bad social anxiety. And so I had a hard time kind of speaking or doing anything in public. That's where writing and drawing and doing art was really good when I was young. And then I always really enjoyed performance, but I was just too afraid to do it. And I had been in dance, but it just terrified me. I didn't like dance. I still do not like dancing. I'm like, I'm not a dancer. Don't ask me to dance. I'm not going to dance. So, but then probably junior high, I started to get interested in drama, and I liked writing things and then performing them in a small group where I felt okay. So then I was kind of in drama and in musical theaters, and I took singing, but I am not a singer. I was just trying because I really like to be in the musicals, but I cannot sing. And I initially went to university to do performing arts. And then when I got sick, I went over everything. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do psychology. Went to go into psychology. As I'm in psychology, I'm studying English as well. And then I switched my major to just be English. And so I have a degree in English, and I've always been interested in. And then that also came into play into work as well, because you have to be able to craft things that are going to entice people to come to shop, right? Or to be able to sell the event in a clear way so people know what the heck's going on. Because
and they connect to it, right?
Yes.
They have to connect to it in a certain way. And I think with creative writing, it is a little bit of magic. And that takes a person who is passionate about writing to get that extra element in there. It is another level. And I talk about, we're starting up a little art academy with LPSD. So it's great. So our public school system. Yeah. And I do talk about that. The importance of creativity is more valued in a workplace today more than ever.
Yes.
So why aren't we setting that up for? I mean, they already are, but we're just going to amp it the fuck, like bigger,
yeah.
right? Just a little bit. So I'm really honored to be involved. It's exciting. It's an exciting thing for our community, and I'm excited to be a part of that change.
Yes.
So it's pretty neat. I don't know. Yeah, it's very cool.
People, like, you could look at art and be like, oh, well, you're either an artist or you're not an artist, which is not true. There's something in you. Like when I was younger, I would look at illustrations, and if I didn't like them, I'd be like, oh, well, that person's not a good artist because of the way that they drew that picture. But then as I got older, I was like, that's just the way they draw people. Their people are really,
they're interpreting it
exactly. Like it's not colored within the lines, and the eyes aren't exactly the same. And it was really hard for me when I was really young, because I think when we were growing up, I'm a little bit older than you, it was like color the tree green. And I remember being in grade 3 and I colored a picture of myself that I colored with crayon. And as we know with crayon, white shows through unless you're really pressing really hard. And the girl beside me colored hers with marker. So there was no white showing through. And the teacher took it to the front of the class and used it as an example of, look how no white shone through. And in my head, I was like, it's because she used markers. Well, if we all use markers, mine wouldn't show it through either. But then that kind of gets drilled into you as a kid to color within the lines and color the trees green and color the sky blue.
And there's only one way to do it.
Right. And then as we got older, even for my daughter the other day, I was talking to her about what school teaches you. And I'm like, it's not just what you're learning. When you're doing show and tell, you're learning how to speak in front of a crowd. You're learning the confidence to be able to speak loud enough and to make eye contact. And then she was like, oh, and I used a bunch of examples like that. And with creativity, when I was in Delaware, this is another example. The youngest girl was named Kitty, and she was trying to draw a mermaid, and she made a mistake, and she just got so angry because she made this scribble that was not what it was supposed to, and just so mad because it wasn't perfect. And then I was showing her, okay, well, how can we fix it? Let's just make her hips a little bit bigger here. Let's put some scales on there, and then we can keep going. And being able to think that way within art, or have freedom to explore and experiment, you can apply that to so many areas of your life. And if you are able to do that and not stay in the green tree, the blue sky, then you're going to be served, I think, a lot better at being adaptable and resilient and being a creative problem solver. Like there's so many ways that it's going to apply that can't be measured.
Exactly.
I'm excited for that.
And I think when, with your story, this is what it says, is that you had this experience when you were young. That's where it starts.
Right.
If you can create those experiences to be positive, that fired all those great things in the creative brain, and that this crazy lady came to our school. Yeah. we made a TikTok time-lapse video. She let us in school, or like anything. Like she let us paint all over the wall, and like, well, like, even they'll remember. Or we designed shirts together, and we got to wear them. My hands are getting crazy now because when you create those positive experiences, like we want to remember the good. We want those memories to show up as good ones, so they keep, because they say the age they stop is like 12, and it's pretty common that people are like, okay, well, someone told me I am garbage at singing, so I'm not even going to try anymore, even though I loved it.
Right.
And it brought me joy. So if we can, switch the mindset of creation is far beyond perfection. Like, it's just an expression of yourself.
Definitely. And I think as a parent, like my niece was over at your house and she was telling everybody how she was drawing on the wall or painting on the wall.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I painted on a real wall.
Behind me right now. Her little name is on there.
Oh my gosh. But for a kid, so much of it, and this is something I admire about watching your boys and seeing that room that you're in and knowing just on the other side, it's a fully manicured, clean home, but yet in this room, there's
stretching it.
Well, when I was there that one time, I was like, it's just like a total dichotomy. It's like house and then like studio.
Yeah. There's some sliding barn doors that separate my world.
But like as little kids, we're getting them to get into that box of being neat. And even as a parent, you're like, don't spill your juice and don't drop that and don't whatever. And then to have that freedom to be messy, and you're allowed to get paint all over yourself, and you're allowed to do whatever on the wall. Now, Chloe did that when she was little. Our toddlers do that. I've got some like pieces behind the doors in my house that were just, he went on the wall with them.
We'll do it later. We'll do it later when they're older.
There's a thing in the middle somewhere where get messy, and yes, we can clean up later, but not being so rigid about like not wanting to spill or not wanting a mess, or make sure to paint and don't get paint on the counter, and we want to get all this neat and tidy, and then it just creates a fear or hinders that.
It does. I actually made a whole course about it, getting creative, but not to the extent you think, but like getting creative and having it as a successful activity, like all the steps to get to be prepared for what you're in for. And the windows where it will work, because kids are kids. They're like little cavemen running around. And so setting you up for a positive experience, and it's not about the end result, but it's about the connection you made. And I feel very strongly about this subject. I just remembered I have a very big interview live about it tomorrow.
Oh, there you go.
Getting a little bit over, like I said, I'm
getting a little overzealous
out there, and I'm like, I'm just getting a little time. Like I just don't have time to. I'm sure you feel that all the time. Like I'm so excited to be a part of all this stuff, but like to find the time and balance, in life is a challenge. Do you find that as a mom, and just like taking on every role?
Yes, and it is. It is a really big challenge. And I had a friend of mine ask me, I don't know, like 7 years ago or something. She's like, did you have to give up who you are to be a mother? Because she doesn't want to have kids. She doesn't have kids. And I was like, no. She's like, but do you feel like you're not, I remember you being so creative, and do you feel like you're not doing that anymore? And I was like, well, yes, to a certain degree, because this is the season of life I'm in. So when my kids were small, and my kids had severe allergies, like name it, allergic to it. Like Bailey could only have rice milk, which is literally just like disgusting water, like allergic to eggs. The other kids could have coconut milk, but he couldn't have coconut milk. Like it was a trial, and it was very, very difficult on all of us. And they would get sick so often. And then I joined some writing groups. And I kept being like, I can't get up early in the morning. They hear me, they wake up. I can't stay up late at night, because then I can't get up in the morning when they're awake, or I'm too tired. I try to sit down. They don't like me facing a computer. They want me to sit someplace. Like it was just so hard to try to find anything. And then I saw somebody recommend, because so many mothers go into these groups and say, how do you find the time? I want to do this, but how can I do this? And somebody said, you write in the cracks. Wherever there is a tiny moment, if you're sitting
10-15 minutes, you do
exactly. That's how you do it. You're not going to necessarily get to sit down and have this uninterrupted 4-hour bliss. My kids also were not good sleepers, so there was no like regular nap. You try to think they're going to nap and plan something, didn't work out. So literally for that period of time, I had to take the pressure off myself and be like, if all I get to write today is tapping on my phone while we're going through the car wash and my kids are screaming because the car wash is so noisy it's scaring them, I will take that moment. I will get 3 minutes of writing down. And then now as they've gotten older, and my youngest is 7, I'm getting that time back. But when you're in it, sometimes you feel like I'm never going to get it back. How am I
ever a little bit of a loss of identity?
Yes, because then you're like, this was me, but now I have to be this, and I am everything to them. And like nursing when they were little, I'm like, I'm the food source. I am the only thing for them here. Like, who am I when I'm not mother, wife, this, that? Like, who am I just as my own?
Yeah, and you really cling to it. It's like sometimes all you can think about, because it's like your thing.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, when can I do it next? It's not that you don't want to be with your children. It's just you shouldn't be with people so much. Like, because but you just have to be for a little bit, and
Yeah.
you just kind of make the best of it, is,
Yes.
because it is gone very quickly, and you do miss it,
Mhm.
surprisingly.
Yeah, you're like,
So,
people are saying I'm gonna miss this screaming, crying, no sleep thing. I don't know if I'm going to, but then you do go, and you're like, holy crap! Like it does go way faster. It doesn't feel like it in the moment, like when they say the days are long but the years are short. Like when you're just waiting until bedtime, and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna make it through this? But then all of a sudden you're looking back and you're like, that was 2 years ago. How was that 2 years ago?
yeah, yeah, and you miss the squishy little babies.
Yes.
Yeah, but not really. Because you know it's hard. It is
Yeah,
so hard.
it is very
Um,
hard.
and yeah, but and you can treasure those moments and look forward to being a grandparent and
Yeah.
not having the sleepless night.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, that's when I'm really gonna come into my own.
Yeah. But you gotta think about it too, like, you're going to have long stretches of time, and you will miss it, and you'll miss
Yes.
when your house is empty and
Yeah.
they're going off and discovering themselves, and then you're like, "Oh, I have to hang out with my husband again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is
Who
what it's
is he anyways?"
yeah. Wow, your hair's really gotten gray. When did that
Yeah,
happen?
like, when did that happen?
Yeah.
Um, Hold on, my studio manager is here, and I'm gonna tell her to knock on the garage and see if Finn is useful. Knock
Okay.
on the garage. Finn will let you in, hopefully. Hopefully. I'm
Yeah.
just scared of hopefully. I do hear footsteps, so that's something. So what are you working on now for
So work-wise or creative-wise?
creative? I wanna hear the creative, yeah.
Well, so probably what the heck year was it? I don't remember because I was still in a fog. I've always been interested in children's books and picture books. Like even when I was in
Mm.
high school, a friend of mine, Red Deer had a really amazing library, and it was in an old fire station, and there was just this beautiful light.
Ooh.
It had the children's section was really cool, and we would go and just like read children's books. I don't know why. We also read adult stuff, but it was just something silly that we did. And I've
Those books
always,
are beautiful. Like, they
yes.
really are.
And like I was always so interested in books. Like I was a big Reading Rainbow fan. Like that was my deal. I just loved that show. And I loved the art. And I remember as a kid just always hating when we stopped having art in books. I was like, why are they taking the pictures away? Like this sucks. That's why
Mhm.
there's graphic novels now for kids. So anyway, a couple of years ago, I started writing children's books and became a part of some groups that kind of help you along. And the thing about the children's book community is it's extremely supportive, and you will be in groups with people's books that you can buy. Like I've got this thing sitting in front of me, like the book order. I'm in groups with people whose books are in this book order thing. So it's
That's
you're like,
beautiful.
I'm friends with Jess Keating and her book is in here. Like, this is crazy.
That means I can do it.
Yes. So I started doing it a couple of years ago and had critique partners and writing and writing and writing and submitting to publishers. Sometimes you can do it on your own. Sometimes you need an agent. So last year I got my agent who's based in New York City. And so that was kind of like the first hurdle. It's like base camp at Everest. Okay, now I got my agent because now you can submit to the major publishers because they always need kind of an in-between person.
Mm-hmm.
And then last year I had an idea for a book. My agent mentioned it to an editor, and the editor said, yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that whenever she writes it. And so I think I got that finished around Christmas. We went back and forth. It's called revise and resubmit. So you'd revise it, resubmit it, revise it, resubmit it. They'd say, well, I think the ending's still not working. You'd revise it and resubmit it. So picture books
So long.
are only like 500 pages, or sorry, 500 words. When we were kids, there were like
Yeah.
1,500 words. So it's not a lot of words, but they really are like, do we need this word? Is this the best word? Like you'll look at it and be like, there's no words here, but a lot of work goes into it. And then it's not official yet because I'm still working on the last revisions of it. So it should be next month I will have an announcement. But I do have a 2-book deal with Penguin Random House.
Whoa,
So,
congratulations.
thank you. And with picture books, because the art takes so long, as you can imagine, doing the art for them. So even though the text gets finished, then the illustrator gets to put their interpretation on it. So they get to read the text and say, I picture it this way. And then you have a little bit of say, but really the illustrator, it's their book too. It's like a 50-50 deal. So they get to say, here's what I believe I can bring to this. So it takes like 2 years for the art to be completed. So the first book will come out fall 2023, and then the second book will come out fall 2024, and then possibly a third after that. They try to space them so you're not competing with your own work. But that was pretty exciting. And it's still like, as a kid, I'd always look at that spine and see the little penguin and be like, it's penguin. Like, oh my gosh, it's
no, that's a huge deal. Congratulations.
Thank
wow. Yeah, and a long road. Because I had asked you, I had looked into getting a publisher, and I was like, well, that seems like a lot of work. I think I'll just do KDP, which is you just publish straight through Amazon.
Yeah, that's what Jeff did too. But Jeff
he's been done really well with that. So your husband Jeff is he has 2 bestsellers on Amazon, is that right?
Yeah, 1 bestseller on Amazon.
1 bestseller. So Clone Yourself, right?
Yes.
Something like that about management.
Yes.
And it's funny because when I talk to all my, like, Travis from Keen and development, like all my really busy friends, we all talk about like, wow, we could really use a clone of ours. I was like, Jeff has a book about that.
Exactly.
Well, it's a bestseller. We all need a clone of ourselves.
We all need a clone. Even Jeff will say that to me if I'm stressed out. He's like, can I suggest cloning yourself? Yes. Thank you.
And then a money sign goes off.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like trademark it, right? Do I have to pay him now for time? No, that's so cool. I'm so proud of you guys. That when I had first seen that story, I was like, what the heck? That's so great. Like, and it kind of like, when you see someone, like you said in your group, when you see someone do it, you're like, then it becomes more real for you, a realistic journey that you're like, well, I can see what they did, and I can follow those steps, and it probably won't work out the same, but at least I have a shot, right?
Yes. Yeah, and like they'll say, the path to publication is paved in rejections. Like you have to get very used to people saying no, or nothing.
Similarly to the art world.
Yes, you'll
I applied to 60 galleries one year. Like it's insane. If we weren't used to rejection, then you're in the wrong.
Right.
You're in the wrong gig. You better do something else.
And they're like, the only way that you won't get published or you won't sell that art piece is if you quit. Because if you keep going, eventually someone's going to buy that art piece, or someone's going to buy that book, or you'll get published, or something will happen. I remember what I was going to say earlier. When I was in high school, in my drama class, there was this it was a really old school, so there was this weird hallway that you had to go around to get to the classroom. And all the grade 12s got to paint a brick, like those cement bricks on the walls in high school. And so I did mine as a circle over top of the one brick I was supposed to have. So I like stole space all around it. And I used an Einstein quote, which is imagination is more important than knowledge, which I always really loved growing up, because what he's saying there is there's so many possibilities, right? And going back to those examples with how you can color things, or how you can do art, or what's okay, or has anybody ever done this before, or can you mix these mediums, or hey, can a hardware store do a class about braiding, or like paint? We had a paint class on the patio one time. Crystal shot, like, can we do that? Well, yeah, if we can imagine that, and we can get enough buy-in from people being like, look, I trust you. Like, I trust that you're going to put on something good, or produce something good, or you're not going to, lead me astray down some weird thing that doesn't appeal to me at all. Then yeah, let's try it. Like, let's try. Right?
Yeah. No, and it is really like throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks. And you never just know. I've just thrown so much spaghetti at the wall lately that I am surprised when I get, and after all those years of, like, it's been 15 years, and all those years of, like, the year I applied to 60 galleries and one said yes. So now, I expect to have that same momentum of having to ask so many places for so much that I'm not used to getting yeses. So then I'm like, shit, now I've got too many jobs. On top of, I still have very young children who I am 100% at home with.
Right.
So yeah, there is no complaint in that statement, by the way.
Mhm.
I'm very excited.
Yes.
But and it's kind of funny when you probably always imagine that, and then you have this great opportunity, and like your dreams are coming into fruition, and
Mhm.
you feel this way when you're there. You're like, oh, okay, well, all right, this is exciting. Cool.
Yeah.
Like you're
It's
like, I thought this would be like grander, but
right.
like
It's very
it's funny.
surreal. It's very like it takes you a while to catch up to it because you can picture it happening. You're like someday, but then when it
It's
happens, you're
surreal.
like, it's like when you find out you're pregnant, you're like, okay, holy shit, like
Oh
we're
no.
gonna be parents. Like
Yeah.
this is what? And it takes.
You
And I
did
always
not
say to
know
yeah,
what
I always
was
say to people with pregnancy, I'm like, it lasts 9 months for a reason because you have to really get used to the idea and be like,
and
this is
you'll never be prepared.
no,
So just chill about it.
yeah,
Yeah. No. It is, you're like, okay, so you just keep going and
yeah,
stepping, and that's the thing. You'll always be looking for more, and you'll always be looking to expand, and that is a part of human nature,
yes,
I think. And then you get this long list of beautiful things that you've been a part of.
hmm
Yeah. Which I mean, I guess that just happens with, growing and getting to, women our age, or well, I don't know. I guess you're a bit older than me, but not a ton. And you nothing really scares you anymore because you did all those cool
right,
things that prepared you, you
yes,
know?
yeah,
And it's not such a big shock, I guess.
right,
Like you worked for that book deal.
yes,
Like you worked your ass off,
yeah,
and everything led up to that moment,
right,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. No. Anyways, I always have a problem with saying goodbye
yes,
because I could keep going. And
right.
thank you for sharing your interesting journey. And it has been such a pleasure to have you. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for having
much.
me. Nice to chat,
Yeah, always.
and I'm
Oh,
sure.
you know what? Sorry. See, I can never say goodbye. You're on Instagram, right? Like
Yes,
you're writing like as you're an author's page.
yes.
You want to tell everyone how they can see what you're up to?
So my author page, which just has a lot of art on it at this point because I haven't announced anything yet, is Tasha Hilderman Books. And then I just have another just like open account of my random musings, which is just Tasha Hilderman on Instagram.
Yeah, and home hardware, everyone knows how to get to that, so
Yes.
you don't have to list it. Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll see you probably at the
In the
bike
hood.
ramp sometime.
In the hood.
Yeah, in the hood.
Wasn't I right? Wasn't that cool? So amazing. It was so just easy to chat with Tasha, and I loved what I got to learn about, a staple business owner in our community. And thank you to her for taking the time to sit down with me. I know it's hard. Clearly, we both have a lot going on and juggling it all, and it's really nice to just sit and relax with a friend, and we just don't get that as much anymore. So we now have these, if you're into the visual or you like to use your YouTube app even more than this, whatever you're listening to this on, or if you're already on YouTube, we have the content on YouTube as well. And of course, every other listening platform, I think, pretty sure. I clearly love to look into the logistics of what I'm doing. Nope. I jump. I jump without looking, and then I figure the rest out along the way. It's more interesting, maybe that way. Whatever. Cool. Thanks for being here, friend. And you can check out our new winter collection through our BHA gallery. It's actually a collaboration between several artists from all over the globe. I think 22, 24, something like that. Right in time for, if you're into finding that unique gift. These are obviously all one-of-a-kind items, and you should snag them up right away. And if you go to YouTube, my kids watch YouTube, smash the subscribe button. I have like no subscribers. So smash the subscribe button and like it. I hope I never get there one day. I hope I'm not that kind of personality, brand owner. I have some more exciting news coming up. Really big projects in the works, with some institutes from the USA. So new course content, new murals. It's just so busy, but like all really good stuff, and just balancing the life. And I'm sure you're all balancing that too. And I wish you the best. And just a reminder to, love. Love yourself, take care of yourself, and live in the moment and cherish every day. And thanks again for taking the time to be here and giving us a little bit of your time. I never want to let you go. I'll just sit here forever chatting. I could. That's why you can apply to be on the podcast, because I do genuinely like chatting with people. Okay, I'm going. Bye.